Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across the UAE and the world about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by the brilliant Nicole Bentler, all the way from Pennsylvania. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Girl, thank you for being here. It's so awesome that you reached out all the way from Pennsylvania to talk about your amazing brand. Guys, Nicole has done something that a lot of you have definitely not heard of but need to hear about it today. She is founder of a really cool thing called Pocono Maple Water. It's literally water that is extracted directly from the maple trees in the Poconos Mountains in Pennsylvania. Please tell me your story, Nicole, and how this got started.
Yeah, so maple water's actually been around for hundreds of years. Native Americans used to use it before going on a long journey. It's one of the cleanest sources of water you can get on the planet because, like you said, it's basically getting filtered by the tree. But what's amazing is it's also capturing all those vitamins, minerals, nutrients that are coming from the soil. So you're also getting that in the water itself. And a lot of times people think maple water and they would think that it's going to be super sweet, but it's actually very much like spring water with a really subtle maple finish. And it's only 2% sugar. So it's not overly sweet. If I didn't tell you it was maple water, a lot of times people would be like, they wouldn't even have a clue.
Fair enough. So what exactly inspired you to kind of go towards this path in life?
Yeah, so we actually, so we're also an owner of the Pocono Mountain Maple Farm. So we have a 450-acre farm where we actually, so my background's health and wellness and fitness, and somehow or another this farm kind of ended up on our laps. And lo and behold, there's like so much fun things that have kind of come through. But essentially, my background's health, wellness, and fitness, and so it was amazing to find out like how good maple syrup is for you. And it kind of gets a bad rap in the market because a lot of it's cut with corn syrup and preservatives, and the stuff that's really in the store is not necessarily great for you. But basically what maple syrup is, it's a concentrate of maple water. So the very first product that comes out of the tree is sap or maple water, and you boil that down to make maple syrup. So essentially what we're doing is we're basically not boiling it down, and we're sending it to a co-packer who's basically bottling it for us, so that way we can sell direct to the consumer. So basically you can go online, you can subscribe, and a case of water will come to your door, or two cases depending on what you want, because the case is 12, directly to your door. Because the whole thing that we kind of went in this direction, we still do maple syrup and we still do a lot of learning and fun creative stuff at the farm for people to come out and see where their food's coming from and see where their water is coming from. But that was kind of the whole idea behind the brand, is like what's in our water. And as we kind of started going down this little like rabbit hole, if you will, of, should we do water? Should we not do water? And all of these things kind of kept coming up of, all the things that are kind of in our water sources now. And, a lot of it, nobody knows. Nobody ever asks. Like, you run into the gas station or your CVS or wherever you're going to grab a bottle of water, and you're not even really thinking, because like, it's one of those things that it's like a commodity we grew up with, right? So you were a baby and there's water coming out of the sink. So it's something that we just never question. So that's kind of the whole idea behind the brand, is like getting people to ask where their water is coming from. Because, if Fiji water is really coming from Fiji, do we really want to be drinking it? Like if it's coming all the way from, that far and on a container ship and sitting in the hot sun. So that was kind of the inspiration for the brand, is just to kind of get people like asking, where their water is coming from. And then maple water, it's so good for you. I like to tell people that not all bottled water is created equal. And if you don't have any of those minerals or nutrients, your body's not really able to absorb the water the way it should.
I love that. And it's so cool that you're doing something that actually helps people. It's not just a business for the sake of being a business. You're doing something that is literally taken directly from nature and in a sustainable way. And I've also like kind of checked out your website, and one of the questions I saw was what is actually in your water, and it doesn't actually occur to you to ask the question until you kind of prompt that. And it's so interesting that you've been able to take something that you think is so simple of just grabbing a bottle of water, but actually making you think twice about what am I actually consuming as a customer, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And you can, I encourage everybody, go whatever your bottled water of a choice, go online. Like there's so many. It's kind of funny because we started this process 4 or 5 years ago and nobody was really talking about it then. And we were figuring out, co-packers, things like that. There's so much that goes into it, right? So it's just amazing that, you know, this is really year 2 for us launching, but I feel like I'm hearing it more and more of like this bottle of water was they had arsenic or something in their water, and this has something and this has something. So it's just incredible that like we're kind of at this point where people I think really are starting to ask the questions and really get inspired to know where their food and their water is coming from.
That is really awesome. And I want to kind of take you to the next question here, Nicole. So you just touched on the fact that your business has been around for about 2 years. Obviously, you're talking about something that is not necessarily a common conversation. People don't typically question their water. What kind of challenges came with starting a business of this nature, and how did you overcome them?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. There's still so many. Like all these things you don't think of, packaging, how you're gonna send people their product. Is there gonna be damage? Do we have to do additional boxes? I think the biggest thing was really finding a co-packer. So the way that we will sell out of maple water. Like maple water is only a 6 week or maple season is only a 6 week season in the year. So basically, you need those really cold nights and those really warm days. And that allows basically the tree goes into like a hibernation state over the cold winters in the Northeast. And then basically the water is kind of bringing that tree back to life. And that's what we're capturing. Once the tree buds and kind of goes into its full cycle, the water tastes different. And the same thing with the sap. You can't really make it into maple syrup anymore or maple water. It has more of a metallic taste to it. So it's a very short season. So for us, it was really kind of trying to line up a really great co-packer who was willing to work with us because we couldn't necessarily give you a day and time. Like we would give you like a window of like these 3 days we'd like to try to do our run, and then basically lining that up with our co-packer I think was one of the challenging things. I think the other biggest challenge is really getting the word out there, and that's kind of why we started doing more and more of these podcasts just so we can talk about it, because a lot of times people think maple water and they think it's going to taste like maple syrup, and it's like no, it's actually like spring water. It's like a very subtle maple flavor, but it's one of those things that kind of it has that effect. So yeah, it's just really educating people on like what it is. Like a lot of times people don't realize like even maple syrup, we have people that come to the farm and they're like, especially kids, they're like, maple syrup comes from trees.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very glad that you're educating the people on the importance of the kind of minerals in water. So not just water for the sake of hydration, but also what you're actually consuming in the water that you have. And of course, kind of showing people through kind of tours of your farm as well, how the water is extracted. Like it's so important for consumers to be able to see transparently the process of how you extract it from the trees, understanding the packaging as well, and like microplastics and making sure, they're consuming very healthily. And I'm curious, like obviously you have a really cool farm in Pennsylvania, full of all these maple trees, and you're giving this product a kind of a new way to reach audiences. Is there any kind of funny or surprising moment that happened to you throughout this journey?
Oh my goodness. Such a good question. The farm is like a living, breathing creature of her own. There's always something that pops up. Right now we have a little baby bear that I think so usually like year 2 they get like kicked out of the nest because the mom might be having other cubs. So we have like this 2-year-old baby bear who is now moved into our backyard. And he's right now he's not being a nuisance. He just looks like he's lonely and lost. So he's been hanging out here on the farm the last couple days. It's probably been about 3 weeks now. He kind of comes around in the morning, checks the bird feeders, and goes about his business. But yeah, no, there's always some crazy things happening at the farm. We've got an apple orchard on the farm as well that has 200 fruit trees. So there's amazing bird watching throughout the property. We have these little orange orioles that come around, which are really rare. So that's always fun, but there's always something going on the farm. Basically, every quarter we usually do an event on the farm. And we invite people in, and it's free for tours and tastings, but we're open for tours and tastings every weekend. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can come to the farm. We're 2 hours outside of New York City, 2 hours north of Philadelphia. So the Poconos is kind of a region where a lot of people come to get away from the city and the noise and just for clean air, fresh water, fresh food. Like it's just very mountainous and gorgeous and stunning.
Wow. I didn't consider the response to be anything related to baby bears when I asked that question, but you've definitely been the highlight of my day so far. That's pretty interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. I mean, it's honestly listening to your story, Nicole, has been amazing. You have done something that is good for the planet. It's done so, there's no kind of pollution that comes from your project, your company, and it's something that is really helping people understand their bodies better and understanding what something so simple that they consume on a daily basis and why it's important to consume something so simple in that way. Now, my final question for you today, Nicole, if you had one word of advice for someone out there who's trying to start their own business but might be too scared to take the first step, what would you say?
Oh, just jump. Like you're never gonna know all the answers. It's so hard. I feel like everyone just is like sitting on the cliff, like looking down and like, oh well, when I get enough money to do this, or when I get more time, or this or that, like there is some things that come into play, but the sooner you can do it, the better. Whether you inch your way in and you just start getting, taking one step at a time. The maple water, it like I said, it was about a 5 year journey to get us to where we are today. So it was a lot of things that went into it. So you just kind of have to take each battle and figure it out and problem solve, and then go on to the next thing. But now it's been amazing to see this product come to life, and now she's like starting to crawl on her own. She's not quite like walking or running yet. She's still falling and stumbling, but she's getting there.
I just love how you refer to her as she. Like I find that so empowering in its own right. The fact that you're not saying, "Oh, like no, my company," or the brand. You're saying she. Even like with your whole kind of the whole forest situation. You're like she is this and she is that. Actually, I love that. I love the fact that you refer to her as a woman. Like it's such an empowering feeling. So thank you so much, Nicole, for taking the time to be on my show today. And I can't wait for my listeners to go to Pennsylvania and try some of your water.
Yes, and I can't wait for you to get samples. It's amazing. It's seriously so hydrating. So I can't wait for you to try the product. And hopefully it'll be there soon. I don't know. Steph said she sent it out. So I don't know how long it'll take to get to you, but I'm hoping it'll be there soon.
You're very kind. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate your time and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.